The galaxy was burning. Worlds lay in ruin, their skies filled with smoke and ash. Across star systems, whispers spread like fire. Whispers about humanity. Some called them savages, others called them monsters, but all agreed on one thing: humans were dangerous. Too dangerous to ignore. That is why the Galactic Council had gathered. For the first time in 1,000 years, the leaders of the strongest empires stood in the same chamber, their voices sharp with fear and anger. They argued about fleets, about strategies, about who should strike first. Yet beneath their words was the same unspoken truth: they were all afraid. Humanity had arrived in the galaxy, and humanity refused to bow. 12 empires answered the Council's call. From the insectoid swarms to the towering Breakler giants, from the cold machine mines of the Ark's dominion to the proud star warriors of the Core dynasty. Each empire sent its finest fleets. Not old ships, not damaged machines, but the best of the best. These were warships that had crushed rebellions, burned worlds, and fought for centuries. They were symbols of strength, banners of pride. Now they gathered in one system, orbiting the red star of Zalkar, waiting for orders. It was a sight that made even veterans tremble. 100,000 ships, their armor shining like mirrors of war, filled the void with silent menace. The commanders stood on their bridges, staring at the endless formation, whispering that nothing could stand against this power. And yet, every whisper ended with the same name: humanity. The aliens mocked the humans when they first entered the galaxy. They called them a backwater species, barely worthy of attention. Their ships were small, their numbers few, their technology primitive compared to the empires that ruled the stars. But somehow, humans kept winning. Skirmishes ended with alien fleets destroyed. Colonies fell silent, reports said entire armies were crushed by human soldiers. It was impossible. It was unbelievable. And yet it kept happening. That is why the Council declared, no more waiting. Humanity must be destroyed. And so, the fleets gathered. Admiral Ter of the Core dynasty stood tall, his scales glittering like jewels, and roared to his soldiers that humanity would be wiped away in one stroke. Commander Luther of the Ark's dominion calculated endless simulations, each showing overwhelming victory for the combined forces. The insectoid queen of the swarm hissed in delight at the feast to come, her millions of drones eager to tear human flesh. Pride, arrogance, confidence filled the system like poison gas. They had numbers. They had weapons. They had centuries of war experience. And humanity had only one warship. That rumor spread like a shadow across the fleet. Soldiers laughed when they heard it. One ship? Against this? Impossible. Some said it was human madness. Others said it was human arrogance. But in secret, a few asked a darker question: why would humans bring only one? In the command chamber of the Galactic Council's flagship, the leaders argued again. The insectoid queen wanted to strike at once, to crush humanity before the warship even entered the system. Admiral Ter demanded honor, that the fleets form a wall and challenge the humans openly. The machine minds argued for efficiency: overwhelm the ship with sheer firepower, leave nothing standing. But above all the voices, there was silence too. A silence of unease. Reports about this warship were unclear, even confusing. Some said it destroyed an entire fleet with a single shot. Others said it moved faster than light itself, striking and vanishing before anyone could fight back. Every empire had lost ships to it, but no one understood how. That fear was the hidden guest in the chamber, the ghost standing behind every commander. The stars outside the window seemed to watch them, cold and patient. The fleets floated in silence, their engines humming, their guns ready. Every soldier waited for the moment the humans would arrive. Yet even the bravest whispered in the dark, what if the stories were true? The empires called this warship madness. They called it arrogance. But deep inside, many felt the same chilling thought. Perhaps humanity did not need more than one ship. Perhaps one ship was enough. And as the red star of Zalkar burned, a new signal entered the system. The warship was coming. The alarm echoed through the fleets like a storm. Across 100 bridges, lights flashed red and sirens screamed as one signal appeared on every screen. The human warship had entered the system. At first it seemed small compared to the massive fleets gathered around the Red Star, but as it drew closer, commanders fell silent. The ship was not like theirs. It was built from black metal that swallowed light, its surface smooth and sharp like a blade, with no banners, no markings, no symbols of pride. It moved with unnatural calm, drifting through the void as if the galaxy itself belonged to it. On the Core Dynasty's flagship, Admiral Ter narrowed his reptilian eyes. He had seen thousands of ships, but never one like this. "Why does it not slow?" he hissed to his officers. "Why does it come alone?" On the swarm carriers, insectoid drones chittered in nervous tones, their queen's voice ringing through the hive mind. "It is small," she said, trying to calm the unease. "It will be crushed." Yet her drones did not believe her. Even machines felt the wrongness of this arrival. The Ark's Dominion's cold machine minds scanned the ship, flooding the network with calculations. But every result was the same. Error. Unknown readings. Power levels too high to measure. Weapons unreadable. Shielding beyond calculation. It was as if the ship did not exist in their databases, as if it had been born outside the galaxy itself. On a dozen bridges, officers laughed to hide their fear. "This is humanity's pride," one commander mocked. "One ship against all of us." Others joined him, their laughter thin and brittle. But their eyes never left the screen. The warship did not fire. It did not speak. It only drifted forward, slow and steady, as if daring the fleets to attack. Hours passed, and still it did nothing. Commanders grew restless. Some wanted to strike immediately, to unleash the fury of the gathered fleets. Others urged patience, believing the humans were hiding a trick, perhaps more ships waiting in the void. But the sensors showed nothing. There was only this one warship, alone, silent, fearless. In the council chamber, the arguments grew heated. The insectoid queen demanded blood, her drones shrieking for the first strike. Admiral Ter shouted that honor demanded they meet the ship head-on. The machine minds argued with cold logic, insisting they overwhelm the ship with every weapon at once. Yet behind the arguments was the same gnawing fear. Why did the ship not move? Why did it simply wait? In the soldier ranks, rumors spread like wildfire. Some whispered the ship was alive, a living creature bred by humans. Others swore it carried weapons that could shatter stars. A few muttered that it was not even human at all, but something older, something humans had found and claimed. No one knew the truth, but every rumor made the silence heavier. The warship's dark hull reflected no light, its form a shadow against the stars. It was like a predator circling a cage, watching the prey panic inside. The alien fleets adjusted formations, ships moving into battle lines. Thousands of weapons locked on target, ready to unleash destruction. But the ship gave no reaction. It did not turn, did not retreat, did not prepare. It only floated closer, as if it had no fear of what was to come. On every bridge, soldiers gripped their weapons tighter. Commanders clenched their jaws. Even the machine minds, built without emotion, recorded strange surges of uncertainty in their networks. The galaxy's strongest fleets had gathered to destroy one enemy, but that enemy refused to behave like anything they understood. Finally, Admiral Ter slammed his claw against the console and roared, "Enough! This ship is nothing. We will show the galaxy what happens when humans defy us." His order carried across the fleets, echoed by other commanders. Weapons charged. Engines flared. The fleets prepared to strike. Yet in that final moment, when destruction was seconds away, the human warship shifted. Not much, not fast. Just a tilt, a turn of its black hull, as if it was finally looking at them. That single movement froze the fleets. It was not the move of prey. It was the move of a predator, calm and certain. And in that silence, in that breath before fire, a thought spread through the galaxy's strongest warriors, a thought they could not erase. Perhaps this one ship was enough. The galaxy held its breath. Thousands of alien ships floated in tight formations, weapons aimed at the lone human warship. Red targeting beams crossed the black hull, yet the ship did not move. It remained silent, as if mocking them, as if daring them to fire. On the Core Dynasty flagship, Admiral Tear bared his sharp teeth and raised his claw. "Now," he ordered, his voice echoing across channels. But before the fleets could release their fire, the human ship moved first. A flash of white light erupted from its side, so fast that no eye could follow, so silent that many thought nothing had happened at all. Then, a moment later, one of the largest alien dreadnoughts, the pride of the Core Dynasty, a ship that had led victories for centuries, vanished in an explosion of fire. One shot. One kill. The entire fleet froze. The laughter that had filled the comms earlier died into silence. Even the machine minds paused, their calculations shattered by the impossibility of what had just happened. A ship that weighed more than cities, armored with the strongest metals of the galaxy, gone in a single strike. On the swarm carriers, millions of insectoid drones screamed in panic, their queen's control slipping as fear poisoned her hive. "It is a trick," she hissed, but the truth was written in the burning wreckage. The humans had not missed. The humans had not wasted. The humans had destroyed. A moment passed, heavy as a mountain. Then rage filled the channels. Commanders shouted over one another, their pride forcing them to act. "Fire everything!" Admiral Tear roared. "Destroy it!" In an instant, the sky lit up. Beams of plasma, rivers of missiles, waves of energy cannons, all the power of the strongest fleets unleashed at once. The void turned white with fury, brighter than any star. The human warship disappeared in the storm, swallowed by fire. Soldiers cheered, commanders shouted in triumph, and even the machine minds predicted total destruction. For minutes, the attack continued, endless and merciless. No ship could survive that. No shield could withstand it. Yet when the firestorm finally ended, when the smoke cleared and the light faded, the cheers died in throats. The human warship was still there, unharmed. Not a scratch on its black hull. The silence that followed was worse than the fire. Across every fleet, fear spread like a disease. Soldiers who once mocked humans now trembled. Commanders who once boasted now doubted. The machine minds reported the impossible. 0 damage detected. 0. On the Ark's Dominion command ship, the cold mechanical voice repeated the same message again and again, as if it could not accept it. On the swarm hive, drones wailed in despair, their queen losing control. Even Admiral Tear, proud and furious, felt his scales grow cold. He had seen victories and defeats, but never something like this. One ship had taken the strongest firepower of the galaxy and endured as if it were nothing. Slowly, the human ship began to move. Not rushing, not fleeing, but drifting forward, its black hull cutting through the wreckage of the destroyed dreadnought. Every step it took was like a hammer on the hearts of its enemies. Then it fired again. Another white flash, another ship gone. A second flash, a third explosion. In moments, 3 more alien ships, all giants of war, were reduced to debris. The fleets tried to reorganize, tried to close ranks, but the warship's fire was merciless. Every shot was perfect, every strike destroying the heart of their formation. It did not waste ammunition, it did not miss. It knew exactly where to hit. Panic spread. Some ships began to retreat, breaking formation. Admirals screamed at them to hold their ground, but discipline crumbled. The soldiers had seen the truth. This was not a battle. This was a slaughter. The human warship's weapons cut through them like blades through paper. On the Council flagship, the leaders stared in horror. The insectoid queen screeched, demanding her fleets return to her world. The machine minds flooded the chamber with calculations, each one ending in failure. The galaxy's strongest were falling apart. And through it all, the human warship never spoke, never explained, never showed mercy. It only destroyed, calm and cold, as if the fleets were nothing more than obstacles in its path. The red star of Zalker burned behind it, casting the battlefield in bloody light, and for the first time, the galaxy realized the nightmare was real. Humanity's warship was unstoppable. The battlefield was chaos. Where once the fleets had stood proud in perfect formation, now the sky was broken with burning wrecks and shattered debris. The human warship glided through the fire like a shadow, each movement slow and precise, each strike destroying another ship with effortless precision. On every bridge, panic rose. Commanders who had promised victory screamed orders that no one obeyed. Soldiers who had once laughed at the idea of fighting humans now trembled at their controls, their hands shaking, their eyes fixed on the black shape that moved like death itself. In the swarm hive, the insectoid queen shrieked in rage, trying to force her drones back into order, but her control slipped. Millions of minds buzzed with terror, their instincts telling them the same truth: this enemy could not be beaten. On the Ark's Dominion ships, the machine minds struggled with calculations that refused to resolve. Each simulation ended the same way: destruction of their fleets. Their cold logic, once their greatest strength, now betrayed them. They could not find a path to victory. They could not even find a way to survive. And the more they calculated, the more the panic spread through their networks like a virus. On the Core Dynasty flagship, Admiral Tear slammed his clawed fists into the console, his scales glistening with sweat. He shouted for his soldiers to hold the line, to fight with honor, but even his words carried less power now. He saw it in their eyes, the way they avoided his gaze, the way their tails flicked nervously. His fleet was breaking. It was not courage that filled the void, but fear, pure and suffocating. The human warship did not rush. It did not need to. Every action was measured, every strike chosen with cruel precision. It was as if the humans were teaching the galaxy a lesson, one death at a time. The warship did not simply destroy, it demonstrated. And that made the fear grow heavier. Soldiers whispered to one another, their voices shaking, their words forbidden. It cannot be defeated. It is a demon. It is not even a ship. These whispers spread faster than orders, faster than commands, faster even than the speed of light across the networks. Fear had become the true commander of the fleets. Some captains began to disobey orders, pulling their ships away from the fight. Others stayed frozen, too terrified to move. A few fought harder, but their courage was born not of hope, but of desperation, the final struggle of those who knew they would soon die. The council chamber filled with screams and arguments. The insectoid queen demanded retreat, her shrill voice cracking with panic. The machine minds sent endless warnings of failure, their voices like cold bells of doom. Some leaders begged for mercy, others demanded more firepower, but none had answers. For the first time in memory, the galaxy's leaders were united not in pride, not in strength, but in fear. Outside, the warship unleashed another shot. A cruiser exploded, its fire lighting up the faces of those who watched in horror. The silence that followed was worse than the blast, a silence that felt like a weight pressing against every chest. Even those who had not yet faced the humans directly felt the same chill. If one ship could do this, then what would happen if there were more? What if this was not the limit of human power, but only the beginning? In the swarm hive, drones abandoned their posts, scattering into the void without orders. In the Ark's Dominion fleets, entire sections shut down, refusing to process more commands. In the Core Dynasty, soldiers looked at their admiral not with respect, but with doubt. Discipline was gone, replaced with raw survival instinct. The warship drifted closer, its black hull reflecting the burning remains of the strongest fleets in the galaxy. It did not hurry. It did not fear. It simply moved forward, steady and calm, while fear tore the galaxy's finest apart from the inside. For centuries, these empires had ruled the stars with pride and cruelty. But now, for the first time, they faced an enemy that could not be measured, could not be broken, could not even be understood. And in that realization, their strength turned to ash. Fear had become their master, and the humans had not spoken a single word. The warship slowed, its weapons falling silent at last, and for the first time since entering the system, it spoke. A deep voice, calm and steady, filled every channel, every frequency, every mind across the battlefield. It was not the voice of a computer or a machine, It was human. "This is only the beginning," it said. The words echoed like thunder through the fleets, shaking soldiers more than any weapon could. For centuries the galaxy's strongest empires had spoken with pride, but now they fell silent before a single human voice. On the swarm hive ship, drones froze in mid-flight, their queen shuddering as the alien syllables crawled into her mind. On the Ark's Dominion vessels, machine minds stuttered, recording the transmission in endless loops, unable to explain why it carried such weight. On the Core Dynasty flagship, Admiral Tear gritted his teeth, but even his claws trembled against the console. The human ship had not only survived their attack, it was declaring war. And it was not afraid. The black warship's surface began to change, sections of armor sliding open to reveal strange glowing patterns that pulsed like veins of fire. Scanners tried to analyze them but failed, producing only errors. To some eyes it looked like living flesh. To others it looked like pure energy. To all, it looked terrifying. The voice spoke again, still calm, still certain. "You think us weak because we are young. You think us foolish because we are new to your stars. But you forget who we are. We are human." The fleets shook with unrest. Soldiers muttered in fear, commanders shouted to silence them, but the words had already rooted deep. For years the galaxy had wondered how humanity had survived against impossible odds, how their tiny fleets defeated empires far older and stronger. Now the answer was clear. Humanity had built this warship from everything they had stolen and learned. Every weapon was born from alien technology, but perfected by human hands. Every shield was designed from data of lost battles, improved by human will. Every system was the best of every empire, taken, reshaped, and made stronger than before. Humanity had taken the galaxy's knowledge and turned it into a weapon that no one could match. The ship was not only human, it was the galaxy itself, reforged in human image. On the Ark's Dominion vessels, machine minds confirmed what they feared. The warship systems carried designs stolen from their own kind, improved to levels they could not replicate. On the swarm carriers, the drones recognized their own biotech, now reshaped into weapons of fire. On the core ships, Admiral Tear saw weapons that mimicked his people's plasma lances but were faster, stronger, deadlier. Humanity had studied them all, learned from them all, and built one perfect monster. The truth spread through the fleets like lightning. Pride turned to shame, strength turned to despair. The very weapons that once made them powerful now stood against them in the hands of a species they had mocked. The human voice continued, relentless. "Every time you struck at us, we learned. Every time you killed us, we grew stronger. Every loss you gave us, we turned into power. And now we stand before you, not with many ships, but with one. Because one is enough." The silence that followed was heavier than any explosion. For the first time, the galaxy understood that humanity had not come to beg or to bow. They had come to conquer. Soldiers shook in their seats, unwilling to fight but too afraid to flee. Commanders shouted for courage, but their words carried no strength. Even the council leaders, watching from their chamber, sat pale and wordless. They had unleashed their strongest fleets, and still they were broken. The warship drifted forward, its glowing veins burning brighter, its weapons alive with silent power. It had shown its secret. It had revealed the truth. Humanity had not defeated the galaxy with numbers. They had done it with will, with rage, with unbroken spirit. And now, as the fleets trembled and the stars watched in silence, that spirit filled the void like a storm. The warship was not just a machine. It was a message, a warning. And the galaxy finally understood. They were not facing only a ship. They were facing all of humanity. The silence did not last long. Pride could only be crushed for so long before desperation took its place. Across the battlefield, alien commanders screamed new orders, demanding their soldiers to regroup, to attack again, to prove that the galaxy's strongest fleets would not fall without a fight. Thousands of engines roared back to life, cannons charged, and missiles loaded, but their movements were no longer confident. They were frantic, desperate, uncoordinated. The human warship watched, its black hull glowing with faint lines of light, as if it had been waiting for this moment. Then it struck again. A white beam cut through the void, slicing an entire formation in half. Dozens of ships vanished in fire, their screams filling the channels before fading into silence. Panic spread again, faster than any order could stop it. Fleets that had once marched with perfect unity now stumbled like prey animals caught in a trap. The swarm carriers tried to swarm the warship with thousands of drones, a black tide of bodies rushing through the void. But the human ship released a wave of energy that burned them all in a single breath, leaving nothing but dust behind. The insectoid queen howled in despair, her hive collapsing as her children died faster than she could command them. On the Ark's Dominion ships, machine minds attempted one last strategy, redirecting all power into coordinated missile strikes. For a moment the void was filled with light, thousands of projectiles streaking toward the black warship. But when the smoke cleared, the ship was untouched, its shield shimmering like glass before fading back into darkness. The machine minds froze, their networks overloaded with failure. For the first time in their long existence, the machines felt what could only be described as fear. Admiral Ter, his eyes burning with shame, ordered his fleet into a final charge. Hundreds of core dynasty warships surged forward, firing everything they had. Plasma lances lit up the stars, their roar shaking even the council's distant chamber. But the warship moved like a predator, weaving between the attacks with impossible speed. It fired once, twice, 3 times, and the proud core ships were gone, their wrecks spinning through the void. Admiral Ter's flagship shook as alarms screamed. His soldiers begged for retreat, but he refused. With a final roar of defiance, he ordered a suicide run, driving his ship straight at the human warship. For a moment it looked as though he might reach it, but then the black ship's hull glowed brighter, and a pulse of energy erupted outward. The core flagship shattered instantly, leaving only silence where a legend once stood. The other fleets broke at the sight. Discipline collapsed. Ships turned and fled in every direction, their formations gone, their unity destroyed. Some begged for mercy over the comms, their voices trembling. Others fled without a word, abandoning allies to their fate. But there was no mercy. The human warship cut through them all, one strike at a time, each shot precise, each destruction final. The battlefield became a graveyard. Wreckage drifted through the void, flames flickered against the darkness, and the red star of Zulkur burned like a witness to the slaughter. The galaxy's strongest fleets, the pride of 12 empires, were gone. In the council chamber, leaders stared in horror at the sight. The insectoid queen wept bitterly as her hive went silent. The machine minds broke into fragments, their logic unable to repair the truth of defeat. Some leaders collapsed in despair, others screamed in rage, but none could deny what they had seen. Their fleets had not been defeated, they had been erased. And through it all, the human warship moved without hurry, drifting forward, its weapons still glowing, its silence louder than any voice. It did not chase the survivors. It did not need to. It had already won. Fear would carry the rest. Soldiers who fled would spread the tale to every corner of the galaxy. The tale of the warship that crushed the strongest fleets in history. No one would forget. No one would doubt. The galaxy had changed forever in a single battle. Humanity had risen, and nothing could stand against them. The warship paused above the wreckage, its dark form towering over the ruins of empires. It had come alone, but it had left the galaxy broken. The strongest fleets were no more. And now, only one question filled every mind, a question heavier than any weapon, darker than any shadow. If this was what one ship could do, what would happen when the others arrived? The battlefield was silent now, filled only with drifting wrecks and the fading glow of dying flames. Where once the galaxy's strongest fleets had stood proud, now there was nothing but broken metal and shattered pride. The human warship floated among the ruins like a shadow of judgment, its black hull reflecting the burning debris. Every surviving commander, every trembling soldier, every broken machine watched it in fear, waiting for the final strike. But the warship did not fire. Instead, its voice returned, calm and steady, carrying across every channel, every ship, every world that listened. This was only one ship, the human voice said. The words were simple, but they crushed the hearts of all who heard them. Soldiers looked at one another in disbelief, their eyes wide with horror. Commanders lowered their heads, ashamed and terrified. Even the machine minds froze, their processors looping the message again and again, unable to find comfort in logic. One ship had done this. One ship had destroyed the galaxy's strongest. One ship had erased the pride of 12 empires. If there were more, if there were fleets behind it, then the galaxy was already lost. The warship drifted slowly through the wreckage, its silence louder than thunder. Every alien who saw it knew they would never forget the image. A lone vessel, unbroken, unconquered, standing above the ruins of everything they once believed was unshakable. The human voice spoke again. You called us weak. You called us savages. You thought we would kneel before your empires. But now you have seen the truth. We do not kneel. We rise. The words carried fire, but they were not shouted. They were spoken with the calm certainty of a predator that no longer needed to prove its power. On the swarm hive, the insectoid queen collapsed into despair, her mind broken by the loss of her children. On the Ark's Dominion ships, machine minds shut themselves down, unwilling to continue calculations that led only to failure. On the Core Dynasty remnants, the soldiers wept silently, their honor shattered with their fleets. None could answer the voice. None could argue. Humanity had spoken, and the galaxy had no reply. Slowly, the warship turned, its engines glowing faintly. It did not chase the survivors. It did not need to. Fear would do the work for it. Every fleeing ship would carry the story. Every broken soldier would whisper the truth. Humanity had come, and humanity could not be stopped. As the black warship began to leave the system, its voice echoed one last time, a final warning that froze the stars themselves. This is only the first. More will come. And when they arrive, your galaxy will belong to us. The message cut across the void like a blade, sinking into every mind, every heart, every system. It was not a threat. It was a promise. The survivors scattered, desperate to escape, desperate to carry the warning home, but none could escape the shadow of those words. Even light seemed slower now, burdened by the weight of human power. In the council chamber, the leaders sat broken. No one argued anymore. No one called for pride or honor. Their eyes were empty, their voices hollow. They had seen what humanity could do with one ship, and they knew the age of their empires was ending. The warship vanished into the distance, swallowed by the endless dark, but its presence lingered like a wound across the stars. Silence fell over the system, silence heavy with fear. Across the galaxy, that silence spread, carried by survivors and whispers until it reached every world, every empire, every ruler. And with it came the truth, simple and merciless. The galaxy's strongest fleets had fallen before humanity's warship. And humanity was just getting started.